Wait, don't scroll. What if this silence isn't punishment, but preparation? What if the stillness around you is exactly where God is doing his loudest work? You've been praying, crying, fasting, hoping, and still nothing. It's like heaven hit the mute button. Your life feels stuck between what God said and what you see. And the space between those two feels unbearable. But let me tell you something, there is peace even in the waiting. See, the enemy wants you to believe that silence means absence. That because God isn't talking, he isn't working. That because the doors aren't opening, the story is over. But don't you dare confuse stillness for abandonment. Sometimes God hides in silence to test if we can trust his heart, even when we can't trace his hand. The waiting room is not a wasted room. It's where faith grows. It's where self is stripped. It's where idols die. It's where you learn that peace isn't a place. A place. It's a person. Peace is not found when things go your way. Peace is found when you choose to believe that God is still good, even when nothing makes sense. Some of the most powerful breakthroughs are birthed after the quietest seasons. When you feel like you're being ignored, overlooked, unseen, it's often when God is doing surgery behind the scenes. Don't run from the quiet. Learn to rest in it. Learn to breathe in it. Learn to find God in it. We think waiting means inactivity. But waiting with God is preparation. It's training. It's building a spirit that can carry what he's about to release. God's silence is sometimes his way of saying, stay still while I prepare the place I promised you. And let's talk about peace. Peace is not pretending you're okay. It's knowing that you'll be okay, because God is still writing. It's letting go of timelines, of control, of having to feel everything to believe it's real. Sometimes peace comes in pieces, but when you let him assemble the parts, you begin to walk in power even before the promise. If you're in a waiting season, don't abort it. Don't rush it. Don't numb it. Sit in it. Cry if you must, but don't give up. There's peace even when prayers echo back in silence, because the silence is not empty. It's full of divine intention. There's something deeply unsettling about silence, especially when it comes after you've poured your heart out to God. You've prayed, you've fasted, you've cried out in desperation, and yet nothing, no signs, no voice, just stillness. That stillness can start to sound like rejection. It can feel like you're being ignored or overlooked. But let me tell you, God's silence is not his absence. Just because he's quiet doesn't mean he's gone. In fact, some of God's loudest works happen in the quietest places. We have been conditioned to believe that God's presence must come with thunder, with goosebumps, with a clear sign. But sometimes God strips away the noise to see if we trust him without the constant affirmation. Silence becomes a sacred test. Will you still believe when you can't hear him? Will you still obey when he's not giving you step-by-step instructions? That's not a punishment. It's growth. It's faith being stretched into maturity. Remember Elijah in the Bible. He didn't find God in the wind, or the fire, or the earthquake. He found him in a still small voice. That alone tells you God doesn't always show up in fireworks. Sometimes he comes in whispers, and if you're too busy chasing the loud, you'll miss the intimacy of the quiet. God's silence creates a space where intimacy is born, not distance. He isn't ghosting you. He's drawing you into deeper trust. When a teacher gives a test, they don't talk. The silence of God may just mean you're in a season of testing, and the teacher is watching to see if you've learned to walk by faith and not by sight. The silence isn't proof that he walked away. It's a moment for you to walk forward in what he already told you. Sometimes God is silent not because you lack direction, but because you already received it. Now he's watching you move in it. And while you're in that space, the enemy will start whispering, "See, he left you. He doesn't care. Your prayers don't matter." But that's the moment you push back with truth. That's the moment you say, "Even if I don't hear him, I know him, and he promised to never leave me nor forsake me." Silence is not the absence of God. It's often the backdrop for a miracle in motion. You just haven't seen the reveal yet. God is strategic with his silence. He's not ignoring you. He's investing in you. He's letting your roots grow deeper. He's letting your dependence on him strengthen. You're learning to stand, not just on signs, but on scripture. You're building faith that isn't based on feelings, but on who he is. If he spoke once, he doesn't need to repeat himself just to comfort your fears. His word stands even in silence. And if you look back over your life, you'll see it. Some of your greatest transformations happened in your quietest seasons. The time when no one was calling, when the doors weren't opening, when the spotlight wasn't on you. That's when God was working on your character. That's when the foundation was being fortified. Because what he builds in you privately, he will one day reveal publicly. So don't panic in the pause. Don't rush out of the quiet room. Don't mistake the silence for abandonment. Sometimes silence is the sacred signal that God is closer than ever. He's just working beneath the surface. He's building something in you that can't be broken by noise or shaken by storms. And when he's done, you'll understand why he didn't say a word. Because his silence was part of the strategy. We live in a world obsessed with visibility. Everyone wants to be seen, celebrated, validated. But here's the truth. Real growth doesn't happen on stages. It happens underground. Just like a seed is buried before it blossoms. Your transformation begins in the places no one sees. It happens in the shadows, in the silence, in the soil of struggle. And while you may feel overlooked, God is overseeing your process with divine precision. When God plants you, it can feel like he buried you. Like the world moved on and forgot your name. But burial and planting look the same in the beginning. The difference: one is the end. The other is the beginning of something greater. If you're in a dark place right now, don't assume it's over. You may not be buried. You may be planted, and planted things don't stay hidden forever. They rise. They break through. What makes growth underground so powerful is the way it forces you to develop strength where it matters most. Your roots. The deeper the root, the higher the potential. That's why God doesn't rush the process. That's why you're still waiting, still working, still wondering when it's your turn. It's because your roots are being stretched. Your character is being developed in the unseen place before your calling is revealed in the open. Underground growth is quiet, but it's not passive. You're learning endurance when no one claps for you. You're learning how to worship when you don't feel a breakthrough. You're learning how to trust when there's no spotlight, no affirmation, no applause. And that kind of growth, it's sustainable. It doesn't collapse when storms hit because it was formed in pressure, not popularity. It's the kind of strength that doesn't scream, but it survives. When God is growing you underground, He is protecting you from exposure before you're ready. Sometimes the worst thing that could happen is success that arrives too early. You think you're ready, but God knows what the spotlight might destroy if the root system isn't deep enough. So He delays what you desire to develop, what you need. That's not punishment. It's protection. He's covering you while cultivating you. The dark place teaches you to rely on God, not gifts. It strips away the performance, the image, the pretending. It forces you to confront the real you. And it's in that sacred, secret space that God does His best refining. You may feel like nothing is happening. You may even feel forgotten. But every moment in the dark is feeding your destiny. He's building you to last, not just to launch. Sometimes people will look at your life and not see any signs of progress. They'll assume you're stuck. But don't let their limited view make you abandon the process. They didn't see the seed planted. They don't understand the power of patience. What looks like delay is actually design. God isn't in a hurry to push you forward. He's intentional about preparing you to carry the weight of what He's promised. So the next time you feel hidden, the next time life feels slow and quiet and uncelebrated, remember, some of the strongest trees grow the slowest. Some of the most powerful people were hidden the longest. Don't despise the underground seasons. Embrace them, because growth that happens in the dark creates fruit that can endure the light. We've been conditioned to believe that silence is rejection, that if we don't hear God, He must not be near. But can I challenge that today? God's silence is not the same as His absence. Just because He isn't speaking doesn't mean He stopped moving. Sometimes His greatest work happens when He goes quiet, because silence isn't always punishment. It can be preparation. Think of how a teacher behaves during a test. The teacher isn't talking, not because they've walked away, but because the test is designed to reveal what you already carry. In the same way, God isn't gone. He's watching you walk out what He already taught you. He's seeing whether your faith was tied to the noise of affirmation or the stillness of trust. And that distinction, it matters. We often cry out in the quiet, God, where are you? And He's whispering back, I'm right here. I'm just not speaking the way you expected. His silence might be calling you deeper. Maybe He's drawing you into a space where your faith has to breathe on its own. Maybe He's growing your spiritual muscles in the gym of stillness. We want noise, but He wants depth. Sometimes we've confused His voice with our own expectations. So when He doesn't say what we hoped, we assume He's not speaking at all. Maybe the silence is His way of weaning you off the crutches of comfort. Maybe He's detoxing your ears from the need to always have a word, so you can start learning how to walk in what He's already said. You don't need a new promise. You need to hold on to the one He already gave you. Silence can also be sacred. It's the space where our souls become quiet enough to hear what we couldn't hear when we were rushing. When life is loud, we often can't even hear ourselves think, let alone God whisper. So He lets everything else grow still, so you can hear the beating of your own heart again. Not to scare you, but to remind you you're not alone. You're being stripped of distractions. And in that silence, we begin to discover who we really are. We start facing the fear, the doubt, the insecurity we buried beneath the noise. That's why silence feels so uncomfortable. It surfaces everything we tried to silence ourselves. But what if God is letting the quiet come, not to harm you, but to heal you? What if his silence is the answer, not the absence? God is not absent in the stillness. He is strategic. He knows that if he spoke too soon, we'd grab the promise without being prepared for the weight of it. He knows the silence is maturing us. It's revealing whether our faith was built on feelings or built on truth. And if we let it, it can anchor us in ways 1,000 shouted sermons never could. So the next time life gets quiet, the next time heaven feels still, don't panic. Don't assume you've been abandoned. Remember, when God is silent, he's still sovereign, and he may be closer than he's ever been. Quietly doing the work that noise would only interrupt. We live in a world that celebrates movement, hustle, push, climb. We equate progress with action and define growth by how loud, fast, and busy we are. I accepted, but what if I told you that some of the most powerful transformation doesn't happen in the hustle? It happens in the hush. There is a holy kind of growth that only happens in stillness. Stillness is not laziness. It is not weakness. It is not giving up. It is the sacred space where roots grow deep. You don't see the tree breaking through the soil during the winter, but something is happening beneath the surface. The roots are stretching, anchoring, digging into the earth so that when spring comes, the bloom won't break it. It will carry it. And some of you are in your winter, quiet, hidden, still, but growing. We often resist stillness because it forces us to face ourselves. When everything else is silent, your soul speaks. And maybe that's why God led you into stillness, to show you what's been buried under all you're doing, to reveal the wounds you've ignored, the habits you've normalized, the doubts you've danced around. Stillness is the surgery room of the spirit. It doesn't feel good, but it makes you whole. It's in the stillness that clarity begins to rise. Not the kind of clarity that comes from external confirmation, but the clarity that comes from within. When God quiets everything around you so you can finally hear what he's been saying all along. And what he says in the stillness, you might have missed in the noise. I accepted that it matters. That's why the still season isn't a wasted season. Stillness allows us to unlearn what the world has taught us about worth and value. We're taught to perform, to post, to prove. But God invites us to be still and know, not to be loud and admired. Just be still and know that he is God and that you are his. Without titles, without applause, without movement. That knowing reshapes your soul.